Okay, I think I got it. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul, and tonight we're going to continue our study on paper 112, Personality Survival. And we're in section 4. We read paragraph 3, but I'm going to read it again to start out so that it kind of brings us back up to speed on what we were talking about. And are you muted, dear? Just hit OK. Oh. There. Okay. Okay. All right. Let's get started here. I'm going to start right from this paragraph. I'm not going to pray before we start tonight. We're just going to get right into it here since I'm already late. Subsequent to physical death, except in individuals translating from above the living, among the living, lovely. The released adjuster goes immediately to the home sphere of divinity. The details of what transpires on that world during this time of awaiting the factual reappearance of the surviving mortal depend chiefly on whether the human being ascends to the mansion world on his own individual right, like in 3 days, or awaits a dispensational summoning of the sleeping survivors of a planetary age. Now, what we were talking about last time is about how the adjusters, if you don't go directly to the mansion worlds in 3 days, then you will be resurrected in a dispensational resurrection, and that happens about every 1,000 years. So every 1,000 years, a group of individuals will be resurrected, and that's what we were talking about the last time we were on this paper. Now, what they're going to be talking about is what the adjusters do during that 1,000-year waiting period, because there's no sense in them hanging around the mansion worlds waiting for you, right? So that's what they're talking about. This particular slide shows us that when you're on the 7th circle, okay, only one guardian angel or a pair of guardian angels is assigned to 1,000 individuals. So that's a busy angel for those 1,000 individuals. And also there's 144 pairs of cherubim. Now this is 1,000, the 7th circle, this is 1,000 mortals. Okay, so you can see why it's important that you get your own guardian angel, right? Get to that 3rd circle so that you only have 2 guardian angel and 2 Sanabim and a cherubim assigned to you, right? Because without that, you have to you don't have that much help along the way that
what
you would
qualifies
expect.
that for that?
Because you're so barbaric that there's not a lot for them to do.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay.
So that's why they can have one pair of angels for 1,000 people, because if everyone's pretty much barbarians, they're not making spiritual decisions.
Okay.
That makes sense? And that's how we start out, as barbarians, pretty much. Okay. Let's go from here. Diane, I think you're down.
If the mortal associate belongs to a group that will be repersonalized at the end of a dispensation, the adjuster will not immediately return to the mansion world of the former system of service, but will, according to choice, enter upon one of the following temporary assignments.
And this is what we were talking about. These are the assignments that the adjuster can take on if they choose to. Okay, while they're waiting for you to wake up, in the next 1,000 years on the mansion worlds. You can really see why it's very important to get your spiritual life in line on this planet, right? So that you wake up on the 3rd day. Rodney, would you take this one?
Yes. 1, be mustered into the ranks of vanished monitors for undisclosed service. Should I keep reading?
Yeah, just go ahead and read them on and we'll talk about them each one.
2, be assigned for a period to the observation of the paradise regime. 3, be enrolled in one of the many training schools of Divinington. 4. Be stationed for a time as a student observer on one of the other 6 sacred spheres, which constitute the Father's circuit of paradise worlds. 5. Be assigned to the messenger service of the personalized adjusters. 6. Become an associate instructor in the Divinington schools devoted to the training of monitors belonging to the Virgin group. 7. Be assigned to select a group of possible worlds on which to serve in the event that there is reasonable cause for believing that the human partner may have rejected survival.
Okay, this whole section has been a mystery to me since I started reading the book. Let me tell you why. We're talking about thought adjusters here, okay? We're talking about father fragments. Did I just lose everybody?
No,
No,
we're here.
I don't see anybody anymore.
well, we're all here and you still have the recording in Facebook.
Okay.
It all looks normal.
It's
His
still
screen's the
on.
only one that's not showing up.
My screen's the only one that isn't showing everyone.
Mine's fine. You want to read it up?
What can I do here? Y'all, give me a second here. I have to figure out how to bring my pictures back up. Well, at this state, I can't even. Where the heck did everybody go?
Hmm.
That's so strange. Let me turn this back on. Maybe I can get it on the other monitor. Okay, let me try to go ahead and explain this while I'm trying to work this out in the background. There it is. Came back in for a second there, huh? In the world is going on.
There's something in this weird.
I power it off, it pops up for a second. I power it back on, it pops up for a second. Okay, let's just go on. Let me see if I can put this over here and get this to come up. If I can get it to come up, I can move it back over and make it permanent, but there it is. No, there it's gone again. It's really messing with it. I'm sorry, y'all.
It's okay.
Sounds like you have a mystery monitor.
Well, that's good.
It's
It's
malfunctioning.
That's a good.
It's malfunction. Something is malfunctioning. I have to troubleshoot it tomorrow.
I know. I said it.
No, I'll tell you what, well, let's do. I'm gonna do something totally different here. Let me change this view to gallery view. That way I can see everybody, right? Okay, who did we miss now? Anybody out there that was out there? Okay. This is so strange. All right, let me tell you why this is such a mystery to me, because they're talking about thought adjusters here, right? These are father fragments. These are perfect fragments of God, right? Everybody with me?
Mhm.
Yes.
Okay, so why would perfect fragments of God need to observe the paradise regime?
Observe what?
The paradise regime. And why would they want to be stationed as a student observer on one of the 6 other spheres that surround paradise? Even more, why would they want to be a associate instructor in the divining school devoted to training of the monitors of a virgin group? Now, maybe that's because they gained experience with whoever they were in, right? But we're talking about father fragments here, aren't we? Okay. So the only answer I could ever come up with this is this: because when father fragments are created, okay, and they're assigned to beings, at that point, they start out as experiential beings, don't they? They start experiencing things like we do.
Correct.
Does that make sense?
It does.
Yes.
And since they started experiencing things just like we do, if the person they are assigned to does not survive, then that experience has to go into the supreme. So because these thought adjusters gain that experience, which has to go into the supreme, there's no way for them to not take that experience with them to another human subject. You follow me?
Correct.
Because it's got to go into the supreme eventually, right?
I think I
Do
got
they
your
not
problem figured out.
retain their information and move
They
on?
do. They do.
Have to.
They have to.
But they do retain that information.
They do. But, you know, the things they talk about here, like this one, it says they can be mustered into the ranks of the vanished monitors for undisclosed service. They still take that experience with them, don't they?
Roger,
Who's a
doesn't God
monitor?
give us?
That's a thought
Doesn't God the
adjuster.
Supreme give us the thought adjuster
No,
and the spirit of truth? Wasn't that He gave it? Am I?
no. The thought adjuster comes directly from God the Father, and the
Yeah,
spirit
and
of
God the-
truth. The spirit of truth originates in the Son, the eternal
Oh,
Son.
okay.
Okay. It's distributed through the sons of God, which is the creator son. So that's why they call it not only the spirit of truth as the revelation of the eternal son, but it's the presence of the creator son. And the only way it can be the presence of the creator son, because the creator son can only be in one place at a time, right? Unlike the creative mother spirit can be everywhere at the same time. Okay. So the only way that the creator son can be everywhere at the same time is through the spirit of truth. And the only way that can happen is it's provided by the local universe mother spirit. Okay. So without the local universe mother spirit, the spirit of truth, along with the Holy Spirit, could never be poured out on everyone on the planet, or everyone in the local universe, really. Right?
Mhm.
So that's why that's so important. Let's get back to these thought adjusters, though. So it's obvious that once a thought adjuster is created, even though it's a pre-personal being, it doesn't have its own personality yet, does it? It doesn't get personality until one of two things happens, right? It's personalized and given its own personality, or it fuses with a mortal, and then that mortal becomes part of the thought adjuster, and the thought adjuster comes part of the mortal through the fusion, and then it gets personality that way. Make sense?
That does.
But you can see why I've always had a mystery about these paragraphs, because we're talking about a perfect fragment of God, are we not?
Yes.
Yes.
We know anything that comes from God the Father is divinity in perfection, is it not?
Mhm.
Lacking experience.
It's lacking human experience, not anything else.
Correct.
Okay. The interesting part is this. It gets human experience from all the other beings in the universe too, right? But it
Yeah.
doesn't pass on that experience from adjuster to adjuster. So once that adjuster is created, it fragmentizes from God the Father. So that point on, it's forever a separate entity than God the Father. It's part of God the Father, but it's separate at the same time. It's sort of like, I think of it this way. When God the eternal Son and God the Father created all the creator sons and all the other sons of God, what did they do? They fragmented themselves to the creator sons. Are you following me? Because they passed on through their progeny creatorship abilities for a local universe. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm not losing anybody yet, am I? Okay. So I'm looking at it the same way. Maybe the thought adjusters, even though they're part of God and they communicate with God directly and all that, maybe once they're separated, they can never be reintegrated back in the God the Father, the I am, any longer. You see what I'm saying?
Correct.
Mhm.
Because of their consciousness. They have something that God the Father, the I am, did not have when he made them. And that would be the human experience. And let me tell you why I think this is the case. Good and evil are not equal things. Okay? Good and evil cannot coexist in the same space. Okay? That's why there is no evil in God the Father. Okay?
Possible.
It's impossible. That's right. And good and evil is the way of life on this planet, is it not? We
Correct.
deal with it every day. So it's part of our experience, is it not?
Hmm.
So
Mhm.
maybe, now I'm speculating again, maybe the reason that this thought adjuster can never reintegrate into God the Father because of his exposure to what?
Evil.
Yeah. Does that make sense?
Hmm.
Okay. And I wanted to bring this out because as we go through this thing, we won't address this slide ever again. So I wanted to make sure y'all understood what they're it's logical, right? And it should be.
Roger.
Yeah.
So, I think perhaps it's dependent on how much time is left, because what I'm getting at is if a person died
Right.
shortly after the last dispensation,
Right.
we're talking of 1,000 years.
Yeah.
And an adjuster could take one of these jobs. However,
Yes.
if the other extreme, a person could die maybe 3 weeks before the dispensation.
Right.
That's a limited amount of time for the adjuster to
Yeah.
choose which one of
And
these.
I'm sure they have to take into account whether they can take one of these jobs or not, right? The
What I
other
mean.
thing is this, when you reject survival right away after death, you're not talking about waiting for dispensation, but right away after death, that guardian angel has to take your soul for adjudication. Because if you're not going to survive, They need to know that. They also need to know through reflectivity whether the Ancients of Days has approved you to go on the third day. So the angel has to take you to the mansion worlds, right? So that adjudication has to happen right after you die. Okay, so that person choosing not to survive, they know that pretty much right away. Okay, but what they do not know is this: if it looks like there's a great possibility that you will survive, then the thought adjuster has to wait that thousand years or whenever the next adjudication is, right?
Roger, I
Right.
was the impression that if, say, a person died shortly after a dispensation, so it's going to be, 900 years
Yeah.
until the next dispensation. And if it appears that he has rejected, that he's not going to survive, I'm thinking number 7. I don't think the person is judged until the dispensation, correct?
That would make sense, Rodney, but we don't know for sure. That's what you would assume. You would think there would be a mass judgment at the same time. That's why they look for you in the book of life and all that, right?
Correct.
But there's exceptions to every rule in the universe. That's what I'm getting at, So if there is some question, if your guardian angel thinks that you have the right to go on to the third mansion world, then that guardian angel is going to have to go through an adjudication with the Ancients of Days so that they can give the stamp of approval for you to move on. You follow me?
Mhm.
And if you don't get the stamp of approval to move on, I would assume that you will be re-adjudicated with the resurrection in mass. You see what I'm saying? Because that guardian angel has to know whether the Ancients of Days has approved you to move on or not. And I'm sure that happens pretty fast. They probably know way before you die if you're going to move on. Wouldn't you think so?
I would think.
If you've reached that third psychic circle and you've already been assigned to guardian angels, it's pretty much guaranteed that you're going to be moving on in 3 days. Okay, that's what determines that. So there's a lot of ifs here, though, and I want to make sure that we understand that just because we say it's going to work this way does not necessarily mean it's going to be perfectly that way. They have exceptions to every rule, just like when they resurrected Adam and Eve after their death. Okay, Caligasta raised a fit because it was not during a regular adjudication or a resurrection. They did not then want them to be resurrected, so they had a special resurrection for the children of Adam and Eve shortly after they died. Right. And that was the exception. That's what I'm talking about. Nothing's written in stone. They can choose. God the Father can choose to do whatever he wants to, and the same way with the creator sons, All right, let's go on to the next one. Let's see who's Lech. I think you're up. I'm all rearranged, but I think you're next.
Well, okay. Okay. If when death overtakes you, you have attained the third circle of a higher realm and therefore have had assigned to you a personal guardian of destiny, and if the final transcript of the summary of survival character submitted by the adjuster is unconditionally certified by the destiny guardian, if both seraphim and adjuster essentially agree in every item of their life records and recommendations, if the universal censors and their reflective associates on Uversa confirm this data and do so without equivocation or reservation. In that event, the Ancient of Days flash forth the mandate of advanced standing over the communication circuits to Salington, and thus released the tribunals of the sovereign of Nabadon will decree the immediate passage of the surviving soul to the resurrection halls of the mansion worlds.
Okay, a lot of information here, and we need to make sure we get it straight, right? So
A
the
lot of
guardian, yeah,
F's.
yeah, the guardian seraphim and the adjuster have to agree on every item of your life for advanced standing. Okay. Not only do they have to agree, but the universal censors, we know there's 3 of them, you know, for every adjudication, they have to agree that you should be associated advanced standing, and they communicate this through reflectivity to their counterparts, universal censors on Uversa. Okay, so both those two groups have to agree. Okay. And then if everyone is in agreement, it's then passed on to the Ancients of Days, and it's the Ancients of Days that give the mandate of advanced standing over the circuits back to Salvington, and so you will be released to go on and wake up on the 3rd day. See how complicated this is?
Mm-hmm.
So they got checks, double checks, and checks again. Okay, any part of that does not work out, what happens? You have to wait till a resurrection, a mass resurrection to be resurrected. You follow me? So keep your P's and Q's in line. That's all
Sounds
I
like
can say.
narrow door.
It's what's Jesus say about that?
Yeah.
You know, it is a narrow door. Okay, this picture is of a 3rd circler. So it's a lady 3rd circler. Notice that. She's been assigned 2 guardian seraphim, a cherubim, and a sanabim because she reached the 3rd circle, right? And that's what happens to every individual that reaches that 3rd circle. Okay, Gary, would you take the next one?
If the human individual survives without delay, the adjuster, so I am instructed, registers at Divington, proceeds to the paradise presence of the Universal Father, returns immediately, and is embraced by the personalized adjusters of the super universe and local universe of assignment, receives the recognition of the chief personalized monitor of Divington, and then at once passes into the realization of identity transition, being summoned therefore on the 3rd period and on the mansion world in the actual personality form made ready for the reception of the surviving soul of the earth mortal, as that form has been projected by the guardian of destiny. So they
Okay.
unite is basically what they say.
Yes, they do. And it's important we understand how important this is, because the thought adjuster, when this happens, first he goes before the Universal Father, okay? Then he goes back to the personalized adjuster of the super universe, or the local universe of jurisdiction, is embraced by him. Now, when this happens, y'all have to understand this is the last act of the adjuster. He will never return to Divinington again. Okay, that's why this is so important. That's why he actually goes to the presence of the Universal Father, I guess, to bid farewell for his journey until he stands before him again as a fused mortal. Okay, you know, they talk about how anything that leaves paradise does what? It's a boomerang effect, and eventually comes back to paradise. Okay, so that adjuster, once he's checked out, he's been embraced by the local people. When he gets back to the mansion world and gets back inside your body where you will be, that signalizes the betrothal is finished, and all he's waiting on at that point is where you get spiritually intelligent enough to fuse with him. Okay,
Mhm.
it's an inevitable.
Now, wait a minute. I thought they got it fused. I
They
thought
do
the
get,
adjuster
yeah, the
gets
gesture
fused.
fused with the individual.
Okay,
Yeah.
now what was the other?
I was just stating that he goes back to Divinington, goes to the Universal Father the last time when this happens, when they know that you're going to wake up. He knows that he will never be going back to Divinington again. So he goes and registers out of Divinington because he won't be coming back. Okay. You made it. So he's going back to fuse with you. Now, let me explain something. The intent and purpose of the thought adjuster is he is sure you're going to fuse with him, right? At this point.
Mhm.
Now, what's the caveat of this?
You don't die.
The free will, because of free will, you can still, until that fusion date, you can still reject God
Correct.
And reject survival.
and reject survival,
Even
right?
in the
Yeah, but
mansion,
Even in the mansion worlds, up to the point of fusion. Okay.
I can
okay, now
imagine that it would be such a big journey, burden, etc., that some people would say that I can't take it.
I wouldn't imagine that at all.
Oh,
Let
really?
me, no, because you're talking about fusion with a presence of God. And by the time you get to the mansion world, you start to understand spiritually because of your enlightenment on the mansion worlds, how important this is for your survival. And why would you not want to survive? It would make sense.
It is true, but there are people who do not survive. They choose not to go on. And
Right.
so I'm just thinking that that is their thought.
Yeah. Well, they may get to the mansion worlds with that attitude, you know? And at that point, what happens to that adjuster? He's already been signed out and everything. He has to start all over again on Divinington.
Mhm.
Okay. So you can see how important this is, not only for us, but for the thought adjuster himself, right?
Mm.
All right. Survival of human self. Pam, would you?
Rob,
Yeah.
does the book state if by chance a person chooses not to survive when they're already in the mansion worlds, what happens with the adjuster?
They were released to go back to another individual.
Wow.
Yeah, they had to start all over again. You know, this is important because of what? Because we know that the children go on to, are you unmuted there?
Yes, I am. I'm sorry.
I'm getting feedback to my hearing aids here. We know that the children have to make a decision of survival by the age about 16, right? On the
Correct.
children's world. And they are given adjusters just like we are on this world. So they can choose not to survive, not to go on in the process. And they say in the book, some choose not to. Why they would do that, I don't know. You know? So
Would they be in fear of their own personal awareness? I mean, that it,
I'm not sure, dude. I'm just not sure. Okay, survival of the human self. Pam, would you take this one, please, dear?
Selfhood is a cosmic reality, whether material, spiritual or spiritual. The actuality of the personal is the bestowal of the universal Father, acting in and of himself and through his manifold universe agencies. To say that a being is personal and is to recognize the relative individuation of such a being with the cosmic organism. The living cosmos is an all but infinitely integrated aggregation of real units, all of which are relatively subject to the destiny of the whole. But those that are personal have been endowed with the actual choice of destiny acceptance or the destiny of rejection.
Okay, there's two parts of this we need to be aware of. First of all, the personality, your personal soul, that personality which God the Father gives you is unique. Only one like it. Okay? Every single one of them. What we don't realize that the bestowal of the thought adjusters, now listen to me carefully, the thought adjusters are just as unique as the personality fragments that God the Father gives you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So each and every thought adjuster is unique within itself. Then you take the personality, which is unique, and you put those two unique individual parts together upon fusion, and you get a double unique being created from the uniqueness of God, divinity, and the uniqueness of you, human, and those two come together to create a unique new divine child or being, sons and daughters of God. Makes sense? And even though this is interesting, because even though all these fragments are unique within themselves, each that they're talking about here, each relative individuation of these beings are all part of the cosmic organism of the 7 super universes. So you have billions upon billions upon billions upon billions of unique being, all that make up the cosmic organism. Okay? And these are aggregated into groups and units over time. And those units and groups are able to change or relatively affect the destiny of the whole cosmos or the whole 7 super universes. Okay. That's why each and every individual is important, right? And that it's interesting here. The very last paragraph of this is this. But those that are personality, right, have been endowed with the actual choice of destiny acceptance or destiny rejection. What are they talking about there? You have a choice to go on the Paradise Ascension plan, become a finaliter, or you don't have to do that. You can reject it all and you can end up to the point of fusion. Right? Big responsibility. So just because everyone is doing this doesn't mean that you are not totally unique within yourselves, right? Every single being. Okay. Let's go back up here, and Diane, I think you're up again.
That which comes from the Father is like the Father eternal. And this is just as true of personality, which God gives by his own free will choice, as it is of the divine thought adjuster, an actual fragment of God. Man's personality is eternal, but with regard to identity, a conditioned eternal reality. Having appeared in response to the Father's will, personality will attain deity destiny, but man must choose whether or not he will be present at the attainment of such destiny. In default of such choice, personality attains experiential deity directly, becoming a part of the Supreme Being. The cycle is foreordained, but man's participation therein is I can't read this one. Okay, personal
Optional.
and experiential. I got a picture over here.
Yeah, I can see that. Okay, so all of this is foreordained. It's ordained. It's set up to be that way. Okay, the Ascension plan, us fusing with the adjusters, going on to the mansion worlds, going on to paradise, going out as finaliters to do all this service, and all this is foreordained. But the thing that is not foreordained is what? Our participation in the process.
Mhm.
That's why we have free will. So as long as we have free will, we can choose or not choose to do this, right? And they make us make that choice before we fuse, right? Because once we fuse, then the thought adjuster has no choice but to go on with it, right? Okay. And that personality, which if you choose not to survive, that experience of that personality just goes into the spring. And it goes on with the thought adjuster to the next being he's assigned to, right? All right. Rodney, would you take the next one, please?
Yes. Mortal identity is a transient time-life condition in the universe. It is real only insofar as the personality elects to become a continuing universe phenomenon. This is the essential difference between man and an energy system. The energy system must continue. It has no choice. But man has everything to do with determining his own destiny. The adjuster is truly the path to paradise, but man himself must pursue that path by his own deciding, his free will choosing.
So something like a mechanical controller, a power controller, a being like that has no choice. He has to go on. He's created to do that and he can't end, right? But human beings, because we have free will, must choose our pathway. And to do that, we have free will to make the choice, right? So unlike mechanical things or things that just are, and the thing we don't understand is there's billions and billions of beings throughout this 7 super universes that are not human. Okay, so some of these chronodex and that sort of thing, there's a lot of beings, even other types of beings they don't tell us about, that probably do not have the free will choice. They're just created to do that job, and they're happy doing that, right?
Or you call them slaves?
No, they're not slaves because they're created to be
To do
totally
that.
happy, to be happy and content doing that job, right?
Hmm.
Okay, so you can't feel sorry for them or anything because they would not be happy doing anything else, right?
Mhm.
Right.
Okay. Fletch, would you take the next one, please?
Another long one.
Yeah.
He saved it for you.
Thank you.
Can you
Human
read that all
beings,
right, Fletch? It's kind of
yeah, I'm
small.
okay.
Okay.
Human beings possess identity only in the material sense. Such qualities of the self are expressed by the material mind as it functions in the energy system of the intellect. When it is said that man has identity, it is recognized that he is in possession of a mind circuit which has been placed in subordination to the acts and choosing of the will of the human personality. But this is a material and purely temporary manifestation, just as the human embryo is a transient parasitic stage of human life. Human beings, from a cosmic perspective, are born, live, and die in a relative instant of time. They are not enduring, but mortal personality, through its own choosing, possesses the power of transferring its seat of identity from the passing material intellect system to the higher Urantia soul system, which, in association with the thought adjuster, is created as a new vehicle for personality manifestation.
There you go.
There you go. Now, this is interesting because if you think about it, the way they explain it, our human identity is because we have a mind circuit superimposed on a mechanical, physical thing that's inside our brain. Okay. So our identity of who we are is inside that brain in this mechanical, physical thing that's going along. And it's a mind circuit, which comes from the infinite circuit. It superimposes a consciousness on top of that. So you could be a being walking around with no consciousness of yourself. That would mean you are not a human being, are you? Because you wouldn't have choice. You wouldn't have the ability to choose. Okay, and there's many beings throughout the universe which are that way. They're mind circuits on physical things that do not have free will. So they're happy going along just as they are because they don't have to make any decisions, do they?
Mm-hmm.
They just function. All right. But human beings, they can make it a point here to tell us that we come and go in such a short period of time. Really, the human life is like a snap of your fingers. That's how fast it goes. To the universe, it's almost not worth mentioning, but it's worth mentioning to us because what happens? We start the seed of personality, don't we? Those things that superimpose our brain gives us thinking ability and personality. So we make a choice to go on past this snapping of the fingers or that moment in time so that we become more what? More permanent. Okay. So we pass from just being an identity, a material intellect system to a higher soul Urantia system. Why is that important? Because we go from just having a body and thinking and that sort of thing, that when we go to the Urantia worlds, we get a brand new soul. So this identity is plugged in to something more permanent, and it's called the soul. Okay.
Wait, we don't get a new soul.
No, it's plugged into the soul that we've developed. We get a new body.
Yeah.
Right? Not a new soul. That soul's been developing by the thought adjuster all the time we've been alive, right?
Correct.
So that soul and the thought adjuster comes together and it puts it in our new vehicle, which is the Urantia body, for a new personality manifestation. In other words, that manifestation is the result from our experience in this life, the building of the soul, what the thought adjusters put in there. So when we reconscientize, our consciousness is the same consciousness we left with when we left the planet. That makes sense? Did I beat that one to death?
No, it makes sense.
Very deep.
Thank you.
It's very clear.
All right. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. Gary, you're up again.
No. And it is this very power of choice, the universe insignia of free will creaturehood, that constitutes man's greatest opportunity and his supreme cosmic responsibility. Upon the integrity of the human volition depends the eternal destiny of the future finaliter. Upon the serenity
Sincerity.
sincerity,
Yes.
upon the sincerity of the mortal free will, the divine adjuster depends for eternal personality. Upon the faithfulness of mortal choice, the universal Father depends for the realization of a new ascending Son. Upon the steadfastness and wisdom of decision action, the Supreme Being depends for the actuality of experiential evolution.
So everything is depending on this mortal free will choice, isn't it? Even the actions and the eventually emerging of the supreme being, because of this experiential evolution, what we've experienced, even it depends on our experience, right? So when you don't survive, you let down yourself, you let down your soul, you let down the thought adjuster, you let down the supreme being, don't you? Because you've taken that part of you, which would add to the cosmic consciousness of the universes, right? Okay. Pam, would you take the next one?
Oh, yeah. Though the cosmic circles of personality growth must eventually be attained, if though no fault of your own, the accidents of time and the handicaps of material existence prevent your mastering these levels on your native planet. If your intentions and desires are of survival value, there are issued the decrees of probation extension. You will be afforded additional time in which to prove yourself.
So you'll be put on probation on the mansion worlds to prove that you are worthy of the survival. Make sense? So they'll put you in remedial classes and try to bring you up to snuff. Now, these remedial classes, this is what happens when they have the mass resurrections, isn't it? Because so many of these people have no spiritual base. All right. They don't want you running around the planet with no spiritual base and causing problems, right? That's what you do, right? I live forever now. I can do anything I want, right? Nah, it doesn't work that way.
You know, would that be a person like, say, that went to church every Sunday, but was there for the social actions and not the spiritual?
Maybe, Gary. It could very well be, you know.
Because I understand that 80% or so of the people that go to churches go for the social functions.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we could have a lot of those people.
There could be quite a few of them, you know. Yeah, who's to say what spark has to light in each individual to make them aware of their spiritual world, you know, and their spiritual goals, that sort of thing. Nobody can say, right? So we just don't know. We really don't know. So
I don't know, but if I find out, I'll text you.
All right, do that. All right, with 6:55, I think we probably need to quit here, unless we're right at the end of a. Let me see where this is over here. It's 5:07. Oh, we got past another section, didn't we? No, we got a lot left in this section. Let's just stop right here then, and we'll take it up from here next time. All right, and I'm going to say a little prayer, and we'll close out for tonight. Okay, Father, thank you for bringing us together. Thank you for your love for us, that you would give yourself in such an expanded way to each and every one of us. None of us are worthy, we know that. And we thank you that you have sent your son Michael to the world to show us the way to the fatherhood of God and the brotherhood of man, that we might all enjoy the presence of this whole concept in our lives while we're here on this planet. We pray that you'll open our hearts and minds, that we might share this with others and help others to understand the importance of their spiritual lives each and every day. We thank you. We give you this praise in Michael's name, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Okay, and we will see y'all on. Let me see if I can figure out which one I got the Facebook on. I messed up all this stuff to the point where I don't even know what's what. Let's see. Let me see if I can stop the share here first. Yeah, there we go. All right.
It could be a frightening experience.
Really, everybody, this will not be online until tomorrow morning sometime because I'm gonna have to figure out what's going on with this system before I can compile this tonight. So I'll do it in the morning. Let me stop the Facebook.
Hmm.
Stop this recording. I may have to use the